This is Nick Thompson in Louisville, Kentucky, a bankruptcy and foreclosure attorney. When you file a Chapter 7 bankruptcy and you have a mortgage, a house that you need to keep, or you have a car, how do you keep that property or what do you do with it after you've filed that Chapter 7 bankruptcy? The bankruptcy code requires that you file what's called a statement of intent. You let the bankruptcy court know what you're planning to do with your car loan. And are you planning to keep that car and sign what's called a reaffirmation agreement? Are you planning to keep that car and you're going to do a redemption? Or are you going to surrender it? Okay. And finally, there's something that the bankruptcy code does not admit to, but there's something called a ride through, which sometimes happens anyway. What a reaffirmation agreement is that you may want to just keep making the payments on your car as if nothing ever happened. You can sign what's called a reaffirmation agreement. You go right back to owing the company, you make your payments on time, and you basically return to the same situation that you had before. It is possible sometimes to negotiate a lower interest rate in your reaffirmation agreement, lower payments and stretch them out. There are things that you can do with a reaffirmation, but some creditors will not modify the payments. There are some creditors which will. But in a reaffirmation agreement, you're just deciding I'm going to owe this creditor, even though that I filed bankruptcy. I'm going to reaffirm the debt to him, and I'm going to continue making the payments as if nothing ever happened. The second option that you have is doing a redemption. If you have a car, and let's say the car is 15 years old, and it only has 30,000 miles on it, it belonged to your mom, it's in great shape, you may not want to pay the $20,000 you owe on it. You owe more than what it's worth. It's only a $3,000 car. Instead, you may want to go borrow $3,000 from an uncle, pay the lender what the native book retail value is, which is only $3,000, and then he is forced to release the lien on the car. For people that have negative equity, where you owe more than what the car is worth, redemption is a wonderful thing because now you get the car. It may be a perfectly good car that gets you back and forth to work, but it wouldn't sell for what is owed on it. You owe a lot more than what it's worth. If you owe more than what it's worth, redemption is something you should look at. If you sign the reaffirmation agreement, then you go right back to owing more than what it's worth. But with redemption, there are lenders which will actually lend money to you after you have filed bankruptcy, maybe at 21% interest, but they lend money to you. They end up getting the lien on the car. The original lender releases the lien that's on the car. You get a court order forcing the lender to do that by filing a motion and order to redeem that car. Okay. And the lender is forced to turn that car over to you once he's paid. Generally, a redemption is in one lump payment. However, we have negotiated with finance companies before an agreement where we're able to get the car for less than what the full lump sum payment is. We may end up breaking it up into monthly payments over 2 or 3 months. Finally, there's surrender. Every now and then you buy a car and the car's a total limit. You don't want the car no matter what the price is. It may be that the car is too expensive. It may be that the car has mechanical problems. There may be a number of reasons to surrender it, but you can just let the car back and go back and owe nothing. And that is the option that you may want to choose for some cars. There are lenders and car lots which will sell to you or that will allow you to buy a car from them after you filed bankruptcy. And we usually keep a list of those places that you can go to buy a car after you file bankruptcy. There are some people who will go out and buy a car before they file bankruptcy and let the other car go back after they have filed bankruptcy. And if you've got perfect credit, it may be that, I can't advise you to do this, but it may be that you will consider and think about perhaps whether or not you need a car after you have filed bankruptcy. It may be more difficult to borrow and to get the car then. But if you're paying the creditor back in full, you're paying them full interest, you're paying them completely, maybe buying a car before you file bankruptcy and reaffirming might be an option to you. You may want to at least look at it. Finally, there is ride through. Okay. And with a ride through, what happens is that in a reaffirmation agreement, you have to prove to the court that you can afford the car, you can afford the house. If you have a negative budget, you're temporarily disabled. You're going to be going back to work in a month or two. You may not be able to get the reaffirmation agreement approved by the court. But if you continue to make the payments as if nothing happened and you keep the car insured, then you may be able to do what's called a ride through. And as long as you're making the payments on time, the company may not require you to sign a reaffirmation agreement and may accept the payments and not repossess the car after you have filed. You need to know what the differences are between a reaffirmation agreement, a redemption, and surrendering, and you're required to make those choices before your 341 hearing. If you have questions, make an appointment, sit down, talk with us about your bankruptcy. We're happy to help you plan it so that you can keep your property. Our number here is 625-0905. Look over our website, down our manual, and give us a call. Thank you.